Friday, so I'm going to go through a lot of things. I'm going to give you a general update on things as of right now for today. Then I want to talk on earnings. So earnings was set for May the 5th. That is going to be a very big earnings in my opinion. So I'm going to break it down for you, things to watch for, and whether it would dictate a good or a bad earnings. But before I get into any of that, you guys definitely know the deal by now. Smash a thumbs up, subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and also pop over to my Discord, link in the description below. It's a free chat, and there is a lot of good people on there and providing a lot of good insight, so definitely pop over there. With that said though, let's get right to it. So looking here, 2.69% down. It is at the $19 mark, 9.4 million as far as overall volume. So today is another lower volume day, 50 million the average, and block volume similar as the volume, just institutions aren't buying. So hands down, today is largely red because of the technicals. I'm going to do obviously technical analysis and break that down for you as well, but technicals are very much poor. In addition to just institutions aren't really buying growth stocks. Everyone is waiting for the Fed meeting. So I don't know if Lucid planned that, but technically earnings is one day after the Fed meeting. So that's coming out. So in case you do not know, May the 4th at 2 o'clock, that is when the Fed meeting is going to come out. So that is as well something to show. I strongly feel as far as the forecast, it will be 50-point increase. But still, obviously it goes back to back. So it'll be the Fed meeting, then there will be earnings. When it comes down to the earnings though, in case you guys, this might be your first earnings to pay attention to, typically there's several different factors that a lot of people point out. One of which is earnings per share, revenue, and future guidance. So those are basically the big three. Sometimes the future guidance can be a little bit more expanded to include a lot more things, but it's basically those things. I strongly feel, regardless of any state right now, I think that as far as earnings per share and revenue, obviously the previous quarter wasn't necessarily the best because they were starting to ramp up production and doing several different things. But I feel that this earnings won't necessarily focus so much on that. Despite that, I do strongly feel it'll probably be in line with the expectation. So I don't think the revenue or earnings per share will be something to watch for. It is ultimately going to be their future guidance. Similar as what happened last time. They did have a very neutral future guidance. Unfortunately, Peter wasn't necessarily the most optimistic sounding. So hopefully if anyone from Lucid is paying attention to this, definitely amp up, either give Peter some, he's a very cool, collective kind of individual, but that could also be seen as a neutral stance, especially if you are giving fairly bad news. You never want that, right? You want to kind of sound a little bit more optimistic. So that is something as well that we all need to watch for, and more specifically during their future guidance, they will hopefully reiterate as far as their price target, not give a further cut, because it comes down to, I did do a poll. I'm sure all of us already have our thoughts and mentality of how many vehicles were delivered. So at the end of the day, even previous earnings, they tentatively already said this upcoming earnings for Q1 of 2022 is going to be poor. They are going to be ramping up production near the tail end, and you can already tell based on the votes and how the consensus is, majority of people think it's less than 200 vehicles. And I personally think we're around the 450 range, but still, there was this tweet that did come out. Unfortunately, I'm not that big on Twitter or anything like that, but when it does have a lot of good information, but I saw this post. So this was done on April the 10th. Just picked it up yesterday, lucky 500. So 500th Dream Edition was tentatively delivered on April 10th. So technically as well, on a side note, April 10th is outside of the Q1. So it won't really be included in the delivery numbers, but still, even for argument's sake to include that, and Grand Touring was obviously being produced at the same time as Dream Editions. So arguably this is where I get the 450. So this is where a lot of people are hesitant if we can get to that 12,000. This hands down, and I will say this time and time again, Lucid has a very good product, has a very good balance sheet, which definitely you need, but it is literally hands down this. And similar, if you guys are old enough and or whatever it might be, if you guys invested in Netflix, for instance, obviously they got killed recently, but Netflix, when they came out, they largely came down to the fact that did they increase or decrease subscribers or viewers, whatever you want to call it. Similar, I think literally Lucid is going to do the exact same thing. earnings per share, revenue, and obviously other sources aren't necessarily going to be their main focus. It's deliveries. That's hands down the only negative thing about Lucid right now. We have very good technology, good growth plans. We haven't really hindered away from that, but it is their obviously production. Production is lacking, and if it does keep on this, and Baird's Workshop, definitely hats off to him. He's done a phenomenal job on providing a lot of insight to a lot of investors. So looking and keeping up to date with that is very good. But clearly, in that regard, even I've done a lot of live streams in the past. A lot of people seem to be like, especially the first earnings, everyone was so surprised that we've delivered so little of vehicles. It's obviously, even just looking at this, it does show that most likely we probably give or take 100 vehicles. Obviously, this is quite blurry, but still 100 vehicles give or take just in the lot right now. But yet, if we refer back to this 500th Dream Edition, like it's, I don't know. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. I strongly feel this hands down the delivery vehicles, and assuming they don't cite any supply chain issues, hopefully since then they've kind of recovered, or at least will give a little bit more optimism in that regard. So those are some things to watch for, especially considering as well CPI data is going to, Fed meeting is going to come out on the day before. So those are some things to watch for. Right now, like I said, we are just selling off largely because of technicals, and technicals unfortunately don't really show any sign of recovering as of right now. I did recently do a video where I projected us getting to around the 1750 mark as far as a low. I do coincide that exactly with their earnings. So I think around leading up to the earnings, we should be around 1750, or possibly, depending on how the earnings go, it might propel us up, or because there's a lot of different things happening with Lucid all at once, and not just necessarily Lucid, but the broader economy, right? Feds want to raise rates as much as they can without completely destroying the economy, to kind of combat inflation. Growth stocks, which ultimately need lower interest rates to survive, all growth stocks are getting killed. And I think personally, Lucid is getting dragged down by the whole notion of, typically it's inverse. So when interest rates go up, growth stocks go down. That's usually the basic principle. But when it comes down to Lucid, I'm sure all of us already know they have $6.2 billion in cash. That is absolutely insane. The fact that they're being like, on a side note, I know a lot of us really like a lot of good growth stocks out there, one of which is Sofi. So I do a lot of Sofi videos as well, and they, for instance, have a significant amount of debt. So I'm just going to pop this open just to kind of give you a good representation of what I mean. So, for instance, looking at Lucid, which I'm not watching the ticker, but it looks like we broke 19, which isn't good. But still, on a side note, so $6.26 billion in cash equivalents and short-term investments, $2.21 billion in debt. So that's all fine and dandy. Let's check a look at Sofi, which is obviously another common trending growth stock per se. And they have about $505 million in cash equivalents, $589 in debt, or in long-term investments, and $4.19 billion in debt. Raising interest rates will kill a stock such as this. But Lucid, on the other hand, their cash completely outweighs their debt. And even their debt is very minimized, especially by the big investors that are getting in. So I think that May is going to be a very interesting month, because conveniently exactly the following week from their earnings and also the Fed meeting, so it's going to be back to back to back, is going to be the PIF. So PIF is going to be disclosing their position, I believe, on May the 13th, 12th, somewhere around there. And that, hands down, should be a very good buying, a good reason to catalyst and a good reason to buy. Obviously, I'm saying catalyst as kind of vaguely, because depending on the sentiment, because I'm a very big investor and believer in overall sentiment, and you need that. Like, plain and simple. And depending on how you see things, like, I think earnings, if you ever look at, for instance, options activity, that's a good way of kind of giving another good census of where people represent us going, more specifically looking at calls. So I'm just going to look at, obviously, right here, so May the 6th, 2022, and I'm going to make this bigger so you guys can see it. So basically these are all the calls for May the 6th. So in case you guys do not know calls, I highly suggest you doing a lot of research. It's very advantageous to a lot of individuals, but looking at open interest more specifically for calls, you just have to kind of look for outliers. Generally, it does look fairly flat, to say the least, even in regards to volume. So it doesn't look like many people are actually even playing this, which is very odd, to be honest. But it does show clearly there's a lot of open interest for puts at the $30 mark, but other than that, it seems fairly flat. So this is one thing I kind of didn't really necessarily look at prior to, I'm just kind of going with the fly right now. But open interest, yeah, it looks like 22, like anything like these prices are not expected, hands down. And I think one thing as well, when I've been doing a lot of Sofi and like Lucid videos, it's all kind of saying the exact same thing. When I'm pulling up short interest and comparing that, you're not really seeing big fluctuations, because at the end of the day, a lot of these prices are extremely oversold. Even on the technicals are representing a lot of stocks such as Lucid as extremely oversold. And so right now you can see short interest is roughly about 21%. Day by day change, or sorry, week by week change up 3%, utilization 100%, and like I said, it's pretty stagnant, so 0.35% up. So cost to borrow is on the average 4.19%. So this is why I always say typically it was at its high, I think 80 something percent for the average, very high. And shorts were actually increasing the position at that stage. At that stage, we were give or take around 33. So shorts saw a lot of potential and it didn't really outweigh the risk. So it was a little bit more incentivizing for them to do that. At these stages, how I see things, the fact that they're not adding big time because it's very cheap for them to open and hold their position, is that they don't see much downside risk, at least. It's not worth it to them. So there is some positive signs, at least representing themselves today. Options activity, just giving you a quick overall summary. Right now, it looks like $1.63 million worth of options with 0% positive. And I have been saying this for a while, is if you look at, like I said, the block volume column, we're used to roughly about 3 to 6 million shares being purchased by institutions on a daily basis. So the mere fact that we are always at 0% shows that a lot of probably big institutions are just buying puts against Lucid versus just buying the physical shares. So like I said, it is what it is, and I did personally buy some puts that is set to expire today at the 1950 strike price. So I'm gonna get, I think, around 500 more shares today. So I'm happy with that. Like, can't complain with these prices. So overall, I'm just gonna pop over to the chat. If you guys have any questions, make sure you let me know as well. Yeah. Fatty. I was kind of seeing some things on Twitter about that. I like it, 8 point, do or die. Yeah, honestly, if it does go down to my projections of where 1750, hands down, I'm going to follow you, Brett. I'm going to be doubling down my position. There's so much upside when it comes down to this, but I strongly feel that this upcoming earnings is going to be most likely the bottom, because I see them ramping up a lot of things by the obviously Q2 of when that earnings is going to be set for, whether it be, I think, August probably. But by then, hopefully, the Feds will have gotten the interest rates to their happy price. So just want to break this down for you as well. So you can see that there was May, June, July. Those are the upcoming meetings. So tentatively, it is August is their Q2. So hopefully by the next earnings, the Feds will have adjusted the rates to where they want. Hopefully, based on everything that is out there, that inflation is peaked. That's what a lot of people are now and have been saying. So just want to show you this as well. Whenever I see some good tweets, I always save them. But this one. So percentage change, obviously, it's assuming that this one was peaked. So that's something good takeaway at least. And keep in mind, we're always 1 month behind. So April, we just submitted for right here, March. So 8.5 was hypothetically the peak, should trend down, especially coinciding with the Feds as well. So like I said, earnings, this one might not necessarily be the best, especially consensus is that their deliveries aren't going to be the best. And as well, Tesla's earnings were home run. They did a lot of good things, provided a lot of insight, but hopefully when it comes down to Lucid, they wrap up their kind of not so neutral per se. I really hate earnings that are like that. Definitely shows a sign of weakness. That's at least my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think about that. But I think that when it comes down to their earnings, people are going to be looking at whether they are citing any supply chain issues, if they can still get to that 12,000 at least, even on the low mark, because given the circumstances, if it's in line with this, then we're in trouble, to say the least. I don't know, because right now, given the circumstances, we can only produce, here, I'm going to show you the general. So right here, phase 1, 34,000 units. We're technically majority way done for the phase 2, but still, phase 1 right now is 34,000 units per year. And given that circumstances, even if we're at full capacity, we can do that. Like, I don't see us getting to that 12 if we're not like at least by like 5 leading into Q2. That's my own 2 cents. Keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. But there is a lot of positive things as well. Like I said, let me know your guys' thoughts on all of this in the comments below. And I'm just going to take a look at some of the chat again. I think most of you do have the right mentality, though. It's long term. That's what you guys need to realize. And it's one hell of a bumpy ride, to say the least. I know some people don't like me saying that and want a little bit more detail. Well, hands down, this is as much detail as I want to give. So that's why, like I said, I did do a video. 1750 is where I see us going. So even given the circumstances where it is right now, still $1.50 off. That is pretty significant to a lot of individuals, especially a lot of you have already shown that you have like even 2, 4, like some have 10,000 shares, even more. It is pretty impressive. But similar to what you guys said, I'm going to be doing the same thing, just doubling down. Yeah, Tesla had amazing earnings, but then I think the Feds are really just dictating where things are going right now. And I think exactly what 𝗖𝗓𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 said is going back to the technicals, no matter what happens, it's just looking at a lot of this, like Stochastic. So typically Stochastic shows at least a starting of trends, and it has a lot of different things, other indicators that works into that. So right now, typically anything lower than 10 is extremely good of a buying opportunity. And the reason why I have RSI and Stochastic is typically those two indicators are used by a lot of algorithms from hedge funds to signal buying opportunities. So RSI, when it does get to 30 or lower, that in combination with the Stochastic, which is 20 or lower, is a very oversold status, and usually a lot of institutions buy based on that. So Stochastic, I'm sure you can see right here, has been very, very low for quite some time. No defined trend up until right now. So just you probably can't see a little bit, but red line is above the black, showing incent and kind of realizing that there is a starting, at least, a bearish trend. So despite us being massively oversold, we're having a very bearish trend. I don't believe that this happened any time recently. The last time I've kind of vaguely did some research yesterday, I think 2012, a lot of charts showed this same kind of indicator as completely oversold, but yet the stock continued to tank. Momentum, number of buyers is massively down. Like clearly a lot of retail investors are done with it. And obviously I'm sure you guys know my polls by now. So right here, what are your thoughts on Lucid? This was done 3 days ago, 1,500 people. Love the discount. So 41% of you are really liking this. Clearly have not much emotion in the investing, which is good. And then there's 29% getting annoyed, 11%. And I get that one a lot. I put that question on there, or that comment, because in a lot of videos, I get comments, man, I just want it to get back to my break-even point, and then I'm out, I'm done. Like, that's typically a long kind of a doubting your investment decision. So 11% is doubting clearly their Lucid in general, and then 19% completely got out because they didn't like the volatility, whatever reason. Lucid, hands down, is very hyped up, and there's a lot of articles that even call it a meme stock. I don't think it's that by any means, but still, I think it's an interesting time period for a lot of us right now. Yep, 8 point, everything is down. This is the time, if you guys want my 2 cents, this is the time to find very good stocks long term that will easily like 2, 4, 10x just in the next possibly 2 years. There's a lot of good growth stocks out there that will do that, but one thing that you want to do is just take a look at this. Look at a lot of their basic balance sheets, whether it be Lucid or Rivian, another Mullen, for instance, whatever floats your boat. Looking at their balance sheet, just look at their debt. You have to look at that as far as a ratio to see how much debt they actually have. And again, this is Sofi, so I'm just going to pop up Lucid. So, like I said, 2.21 billion is a little bit high. That's probably one of the as well attributing factors, but still to no degree it shouldn't be grouped with a lot of other major growth stocks that have a lot of debt. But hands down, this is where you'll see a divide over the next 6 months, and I've been saying this for a long time. I think in general growth stocks are going down, but then you're going to see a little bit more of a switch off, that ones such as Lucid that are still maintaining their goals and everything is going to trend up. And on a side note, I know a lot of individuals and investors are fairly new to investing. At the end of the day, Lucid can go down to $2, and fundamentally the day-to-day operation does not change one bit. Like, someone could just have blinders on and they'll never know exactly that the stock price is at $100, $200, or $2. It makes no difference to them. It only makes difference to them hypothetically if they need additional financing, which based on the earnings, they said they do need most likely 2023. Because they said that 6.26 billion is going to survive them and keep them afloat until the 2023. Hopefully they give a little bit more guidance, or at least talk on that as well during the upcoming earnings as well. Yeah, Jose, you know what? I completely understand. It's frustrating. Nobody wants, and I think this is why I do a lot of kind of posts and stuff like that on essentially this. Did it pop up? Yeah. Interact with brokers. So I did put a link to them in the description below. I like a lot of the good content that they offer. So definitely pop over there. You can just click on the link and it shows you a lot of good information. But I always believe in the social sentiment. Regardless of whatever it is, you need to have a good understanding, and your underlying stock needs to be sought out in a positive way. And by not holding, or inability to hold gains, it desensitizes, like for instance, like if it's just completely volatile and it goes through cycles, why would someone invest in Lucid long term? That hands down becomes the question. Why would anyone invest in Lucid if it's just going to go to 19 to 24 and then back down to 19? Like, you need it to have a at least sustainable upward trend, such as, obviously we can think of some notable ones, Apple, Microsoft, Google. A lot of those big names are very consistent and consistently goes up. This is one thing I think a lot of people need to realize, and hopefully will change with the foreseeable future once Lucid gets a little bit more established. So that's my 2 cents. I'm just going to take a look at the comments. Make sure you guys smash the thumbs up and all that fun jazz. GGPI, I personally really like them. I think the only difference is that I think long term you want to pick a company that has a lot of good tech, because I think EV, for them to flourish and grow, you'll need a company that can produce, which unfortunately Lucid isn't that right now, but with tech. So I guess right now GGPI and Lucid are kind of opposite. GGPI has the ability to produce a lot of vehicles, but their technology is subpar. versus Lucid, it's opposite. So I guess it's just different choices how you see that. GDPI is still going to do a lot of good things. Just I think it's going to be a tech kind of investment, if you want to call it that. Yeah, Cloudwalker. Hands down, yeah, it's just going to come down to whoever says it, whether it be Peter or someone else from the board or someone. Delivery numbers. And clearly a lot of people are under the impression that, as you can tell, under 200. That's not that good, in my opinion, especially as well going back to this April 10th. So outside of the earnings, there was the 500th Dream Edition was delivered. So not the best in my opinion, and I think that will cause a lot of volatility. Hopefully they have some good things that they want to share with us that will outweigh that as a negative. So hopefully saying that we are on track to and have alleviated the kind of supply chain issue, and hopefully they bring up some more good news about growth advancement, because they are going to be doing their, as you can see right here in May, which actually there was a thing that was posted out there about why they moved up tentatively their earnings, because no company ever has a set date that they can do it, but historically they always do it at the same time. Maybe they're bumped it up because of this. I believe it's May the 3rd, I think it is, their inauguration for the Munich studio. So maybe it's coinciding with that. They want to give some good news from that. And as well, obviously, when it comes down to Lucid as well, it's going to be reservations. So reservations are going to be something that they talk about. But I feel personally as well, though, if they can't get production down, then it'll desensitize people to actually want to put reservations down. And I think that's a shame, because Lucid has done a phenomenal job with all the studios, and it's bringing up demand and raising reservations. But if you can't get those vehicles delivered, nobody's going to do that. And so I think that's just my own 2 cents on that. But still, a lot of good buying opportunities, and actually maybe, I don't know, I'm hesitant. Maybe I'll buy a little bit more as of right now too. Actually, I guess I have the options 500 shares, but still. Yeah, assuming, 8 point. I don't know, maybe about a double, but yeah, it should do fairly well. Yeah, I agree with that, Cloudwalker. I think right now it's just delivery numbers, production numbers. That's going to be the end-all, be-all. That's what people are going to watch for, hands down. So I think right now people are just needing that, plain and simple. So literally you can ignore everything, and then when they talk about their future guidance, that's where you want to talk on or pay attention to. On a side note, make sure you guys are smashing the thumbs up. I am going to be doing the live stream for Lucid, the earnings, so that way stay tuned, and then we'll kind of give you my projection on what good, bad, the ugly, what came from the earnings. Similar to what happened last time, I was outright and just say, you know what, this sucked, it wasn't good, too neutral, blah blah blah. But still, hey John, thanks for coming out. Nesser, you got in at an amazing price, to be honest. Personally, I see 1750 as a low. That's how I see things. More so on a micro level. Just want to go through some of this. So micro level, as far as support points, 1873. So we are very close to that. Second is around the 18 and 1633. On a sorry, I think I said macro, but this is the micro view. On more so the macro view, it's 1703. That's something that we have to watch for. So I see us getting to, a lot of people know that this is a very strong support for us. So usually psychology, how that works is people buy ahead of the game. So they want to ensure that they buy at the cheapest price. So they will put 1705 and then it'll go up 1710, blah, blah, blah. So that's where I logically see around 1750 being the low. And I think that would most likely factor in the earnings as well. I can't see us getting to 15 again. That's just my own 2 cents. Especially based on everything, I can't see us getting there unless a lot of things happen. Because keep in mind though, in case you guys are just joining in, Fed meeting is May the 4th. And then obviously Lucid earnings is on May the 5th. So it goes back to back. Largely, Feds will dictate where things go. They're going to probably do the 50-point increase. Then they will give their guidance, what their plans are for the next several, I believe 5 meetings post that. So yeah, it's largely going to be them. They're going to dictate. So if they give that the 50-point increase, and then they say, you know what, we're going to start easing off, and maybe in the next couple meetings we're not going to have any increases, just kind of watch the market, that is going to cause a lot of big rallies. So a lot of things happening all at once, but I don't see 15-ish. I see 1750-ish, maybe, possibly even higher than that, but still. And I think there's a lot of, despite the massive red days, there is a lot of good bullish signals that are starting to form. Just clearly not big money is buying. And I think out of everything, it goes to show what big institutions actually do for the underlying stocks. Juan, I would say, me personally, I would say no. It is definitely not a piece of something. So, but obviously looking right here, there is a lot of people that would contradict that. Obviously 19% say they got out. There's clearly a lot of people that not really, because if you even look at the chart, like we've gone down quite a lot, and it's hard to say and sit here be like, yeah, you know what, this is an amazing buying opportunity, blah blah blah, when in reality a lot of people, including myself, have been saying theoretically nobody could have predicted us going down this low. And if you ever say that, that's completely wrong, because there's a lot of factors that caused us to go down, in my opinion, prematurely. Because in the SEC as well, that investigation, which most likely will conclude at the end of this year, that caused us to go down. I don't see that coming to anything. In addition to right here, you can see the previous Tesla earnings. That one caused us because they cited supply chain issues and chips, which we weren't a part of that issue. We had glass and obviously carpet and associated things like that, but we went down because of them. And so I think largely we are well below our intrinsic value. I think we should be logically around 25. So given the circumstances, we are at a massive discount. So I think it's just depending on your average, right? And depending if you're a new investor, this might be the worst investment of your life, especially if you got in at 50, right? It's different things, right? Exactly, Timothy. That is a very well put statement. It's a rough patch right now, and it's going to be blue skies very soon. And I think a lot of people need to put that in perspective, the fact that Tesla went through a very, very volatile time. Plus, they had the CEO that was just tweeting wherever the hell he wanted. And Tesla, like, look at where we associate Tesla now. And like, we think of them as number one. And the only thing that means, and pretty much their movements dictate where the rest of the EV stocks go. So we think of Tesla as up there, and we are technically equivalent to where Tesla was starting out. So that is, I guess you just have to put it in perspective. And I always bring this up on occasion, just again to put this in perspective. It was a while back, but clearly, wow, I save a lot. Right here, finally. So Tesla's deliveries. You can see obviously 2021 where they were at, and equivalently, we are right here. So they had a huge ramp up in deliveries the second year, 20,000. Second year for us, we're assuming, I believe, is around 45. I could be wrong. And they haven't changed that one. They changed, obviously, the outlook for 2022, but not the following ones. Once they get production down pat, then you can even see, like, look at this. we have a better balance sheet than Tesla did when they started out. We have better technology, better investors. We have pretty much one of the best group out there. And I think we will see this exponential growth in half the time. So I think it's just exactly what Timothy said, is a very bumpy ride. But if you actually put it in perspective and have patience, this is going to be a massive it's going to be a great buying opportunity, great investment. And people, like I always say, unfortunately, things have been going down. So it's hard to put it in perspective, but people are going to look back and wish they bought more at this stages. So oh, Juan. Oh, I thought you were swearing. Unless point of sale. Okay. Good stuff. Yep. 8 point. I did have a fairly high average similar to that, and then I've been personally averaging down. So I'm about to get 500 more shares exercised for my options. The puts I sold, 1950. So I'm happy with that. And so it'll bring my current average is at 2120. So it'll bring it to probably 20, 21 something. No. Yeah, somewhere around there, 21 most likely. So I'm happy with that, and I'll continue to do options. So like I said, make sure you guys research options. I highly suggest you doing that, because if you are even holding shares, you can make a lot of money, to say the least, just by showing you this as well, going back to the options activity. So hypothetically, once again, if you choose a long-term investment, and like worst case scenario, you can even sell $25 strike prices. So even if you buy it today at 19 and you think, you know what, I want to sell it at 25, you will get that capital benefit. In addition to, you will also get the $5 or well, depending if you buy it, $5.50 per option. So that's 100 shares. So it's a win-win for a lot of individuals. And yeah, it's just take that how you see that, or buy a lot of long-term calls. It's a lot of positive things, different ways to think about all of this. But obviously I'm not going to sit here and say, you know what, this is the best buying opportunity, you need to go YOLO and all that, because I understand it's very frustrating that even looking at this chart, like, we've gone down massively. So just put it in perspective. I think this earnings, though, will be the bottom, and more so as well from the Fed standpoint. So the Feds will be done with their kind of escalation in interest rates, and they'll give some very good guidance. And then it comes down to the fact about delivery numbers. This, I think, will be the worst quarter for delivery numbers, and it looks like people as well, like I said, think about that and agree with that. But like they even said in previous earnings, they're going to be ramping up in the second half of earning of 2022. So I think that will come sooner than later. And again, it goes back to the point, it's just long-term investment. Day trader, that's a pretty, you know what, 46.63 in overall though, wasn't, I don't know. Well, did you buy it on its way up or down? Did you buy it during the massive upside, or during the SEC kind of, or when Jim Cramer was saying it's a bubble and all that fun? Yeah, 8 point. Options, a lot of people are worried about options and overthink it. There's a lot of different ways you can make a lot of money on options. And even if you have the physical shares, you can sell covered calls on a weekly basis. Like personally, I sold today, or even on Monday, for instance, I bought 3 options. One was Lucid. Oh, sorry, I sold 5 puts for Lucid. So that's going to be exercised. I sold some Alibaba puts. That's going to be closed out, so I'm going to get the full premium. So $400, just that for on a week, just less than a week, I guess. And then Twitter. I knew the kind of hype with Twitter was overdone, so I sold some naked cover calls at 51 strike price, and so that's another 450 there. So a lot of easy ways to make a lot of money with options. So like I said, just do a little bit of research. You can easily make a lot of money in my own 2 cents. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think anyone assumed that we'd go this low. Like this is crazy low. This is yeah, I don't know what to say. Like I think the only difference is, like, I did a video exactly on the same day because everything at that day on the 15th did show and project that we were at the bottom. So there's a lot of good bullish signals. Right now, the only negative thing about this is I don't see a lot of these all bullish signals all showing up at once. There's some good ones that are kind of popping out a little bit, but not really to the degree of showing a reversal. Even starting when doing this live stream, shorts were at, they increased 0.35%, I believe it was. Now it's 0.88. So shorts are taking advantage of this fear, and you can even see on this yellow line right up there, that is short interest. So short interest is literally just going up and up and is almost at 21%. So this, hands down, there's 119 million shares that are being shorted right now, just on Lucid. So I'm not here to say that a short squeeze is going to happen, because most likely it won't. But these same institutions that are buying puts against Lucid and most likely shorting are going to be the ones that take us out. Whenever they feel that the intrinsic value is completely well below it, they will most likely at that stage recover it. And like I've been saying for a while now, I think we're going to continue our downtrend up until the Fed meeting. Similar to what happened on March the 16th. In case you guys don't know, we were on a massive downtrend for a very long time. And actually, even going back to the chart here, just to, again, put in perspective of what most likely will happen next week. Not to say we're going to have nothing but red days next week, but I think we're going to overall be red, have some glimpses, but we had a lot of red days, as you can see on this little, there. So leading up to the Fed meeting, went down here. They did raise it half of a point, or 50 points, I should say. Despite that, though, they added a lot of transparency. They let us know exactly things that they were planning to do. Nothing was hidden. Investors clearly really liked that. We bounced up really hard from there. So there's a lot of different things, even on March the 15th, the day before their Fed meeting, a lot of bullish signals were starting to be formed. I can see that exactly happening with this upcoming meeting on May the 4th. I've said this so many times. So much fear is around that, and they are going to say most likely a 50-point increase and then say blah, blah, blah. At least provide transparency so the market has a way of factoring that in on the price. Then at that stage, once it's factored into the price, then all these bullish signals have a free opportunity to run as they see fit. So let me know your guys' thoughts on that, but unfortunately I know a lot of people don't want to hear May 4th might be the day that we have to wait until for us to rally. And especially now in Lucid's case as well, we have May the 4th, which should cause a nice rally, and then you have their earnings back-to-back on May the 5th. So interesting time period for Lucid, to say the least. And make sure you guys are smashing the thumbs up as well and doing all that fun stuff. And also subscribe, because I am also going to be doing the live stream for Lucid. So I'm going to be doing that, and we'll go through all of that and I'll give you my projections and whether things are good, whether they're just BS and they're just trying to cover something up or just say it a certain way. Yeah. Let me know, and also here if any of you did buy a Lucid Air or Grand Touring or any of those. I'm interested to see if I think there is a lot of investors out here that are investing and they actually are buying or have the car already. So I'm interested to see that. And on a side note as well, If you guys are looking for a lot of good charts and information in one spot, just click on the link that I just put in the chat, and you can play around. It has a lot of good information on there. Yeah, the loyal Dutch, that could be the case. Obviously, that is a very strong, the 1703 is this third support level. If we do get below that, then we're kind of in a little bit more unprecedented, because typically a lot of the Fibonacci and technicals all derive from previous historical data. So we don't have anything below that. So it could be in a free fall. Nobody will ultimately know when their strong support is. It's just going to be estimated. So hopefully I really hope we don't break below that 1703, hands down. But I think a lot of good buying opportunity will occur. I think around the 1750 range, but still, even on this price right now, that's pretty hefty. I think it was a 15% additional drop. Could be wrong. Yeah, somewhere around there. But yeah, or maybe a little bit higher. But still, for those investors that have, even in the chat, like 30s and 40s, for instance, nobody wants to hear like it's 1750, and it sucks, to say the least. But hopefully this past earnings, once we do break out of that, it will be a nice change, and at least trend us up. So I know people don't want to hear, but just be patient. Especially, there is some exciting things. Obviously, I'm sure you guys already know, growth is my niche. Growth is what I really like about Lucid, and hitting the right markets with the right demand. And Lucid is doing that. So I believe, I could be wrong, I believe it is on May the 3rd. As far as, or it could be the 4th. The Germany, the Munich studio opening, even as far as in Netherlands. So there's a huge amount of growth that is going to be coming in for Lucid, even in most likely the tail end of 2022. And just imagine, again, I always say this, take a step back, because I myself as an investor, I've been investing since 2009. I made a lot of mistakes, and to say the least. I played with a lot of emotion, and I used margin, and so I think everyone needs to go through these big losses at one stage in their investing career or time period, and then you learn. Right now, I do not invest with any emotion whatsoever, and I think of this more as a game. You just have to take all the necessary information that you have and make a sound decision. So this is why I feel, and I'm still very bullish on Lucid, despite us going down 60+% from our all-time highs, because Lucid's growth is hitting those markets. There's a lot of good niche things that they're doing that is no other company has that, including its investors. Its investors are, I think that's one of the biggest things that caught a lot of people's eye, is PIF, like Vanguard, like a lot of the big names already got into this new company per se. So that caught a lot of people's eye, and not only that, the new company was being compared to Tesla. So I think there's a lot of positive things to Lucid. You just have to take a step back, and just realize that this is a game that you can win. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but people do say this: you don't lose until you sell. So imagine having an average of $40 right now, and you sell right now. You might think you're doing a smart thing by saving a couple dollars, but hands down, the risk, similar to why I always bring up about shorts and use that as a good benchmark, because the mere fact that they're not doubling down big time shows it's not really worth the risk. But day by day change, it does look like they're still increasing right now, so it's 0.98%. So they're taking advantage of the fear. You can see all the broader indexes are very much red today, even in crypto, so the Bitcoin as well, everything. So you can't really escape it. It's just have a couple drinks and enjoy it. That's my own 2 cents. Oh, smart. Nice, Nasser. Yeah, I think Saudi Arabia, that is going to be a game changer, because I think as far as costs, if they're going to be shipping it from the AMP facility, It's going to be most likely, if they do, I did do a video on it. I think I projected around 2,700 at the low for to ship from the AMP facility to Europe. Because I really like Europe. Europe is has a huge market. North America was surprisingly, the demand was up. It's starting to go up. That's good. But I think that once the Saudi factory is actually up and running, that is going to be an exciting time. So just imagine between 2024 and 2026, everything that is going to be coming for Lucid. Like, imagine you think back, like in 2026, when this is like easily 200 plus. Oh, I sold it at 19, just to thinking it's going down to 15 or whatever it is. Like, you just have to put it at in that perspective. Yeah, you're right. The loyal Dutch. It's a completely, even from last September, this is a completely different environment now. Yeah, China, the lockdown doesn't help. I think the only thing that's saving grace, more so, again, from I don't know if you guys want to hear this, more so from a macro view. Because whenever you look at a stock, you kind of have to look at the sector, look at macro, kind of keep comparing the two. On a macro view, a lot of the economic data that's been coming out from the consumer standpoint has been fairly good, to say the least. And I think that's one of the only factors why we haven't had it in like a recession, is because consumers are still out there getting debt, still running the economy, and still spending money. So I think that, hands down, is one of the things that is still making not necessarily just the US, but a lot of the global market still strong. If you take that factor out, that is when I think a lot of people should be worried. Even Jim Cramer recently, I believe it was 2 days ago, said that a recession is becoming more and more likely to come. So I did it more of a joke when I posted it on Twitter, saying, you know what, like, haha, Jim Cramer thinks we're having a recession. That means time to buy. But it's very realistic, right? Especially if you take that X factor out of consumers. Imagine half of us in this chat right now lose our jobs. Then what? So yeah, I completely agree with you, loyal Dutch. Different environment right now. So day trader brings up a good point. So just to canvas you guys, do you guys really think that there's still going to be a Apple partnership with Lucid? Or do you think that Apple is going to work with Foxconn? I'm interested to hear your points, because obviously with the NVIDIA Lucid partnership, that kind of eliminates the need for Apple. Because ideally it comes down to the fact that, like, yeah, Lucid has the technology, but Apple is needing that factor of production. And right now I think Lucid has yet to do that. So if Lucid would possibly do what GGPI is doing, or for instance one of the legacy makers, then yeah, we would have already heard Apple and Lucid from the get-go. But I'm interested to hear what you guys think. Yeah. Hey Marbat, appreciate you joining. Yeah, spy, yeah, get a couple drinks. That's what the best cure for these kind of days. Yep, the feds are really, and have been, I think it's not necessarily just today, they've been dictating where we've been going for a while. Like, they've been able to, it was an interesting time period, actually. I've even been saying, like, I've done quite a few live streams, and there was so many time periods, more so like around January, February as well, when even good economic data was coming out, showing the economy was very strong. The market would take that and go down, tank down, in fact, because they knew that that would give the Feds ammunition to raise rates. Like, literally every stage has been revolving around the Feds, and I don't think that it should be like that at all. But again, I get that the fact that they're trying to combat inflation, and it should have been raised earlier, not necessarily after the fact. So I think they're kind of stumbling from their own mistake. But that's my own 2 cents again. But at least right now, I think the market's gone back to a little bit more normal, a little bit, especially when there's good economic data coming out. We generally move in that direction that projects that. So that's one positive thing, I guess. But I think that's since March 16th, the Feds were very transparent with their what they were going to be doing. So yeah, it's funny to look at the news for Lucid from all these platforms that break it down, and it's just like, oh, lawsuit. Okay, lawsuit. Nobody cares about. That came out the 20th. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like there's no real defined catalyst. 13 Fs, institutions buying, ramping up production. That's going to be something. Hopefully, the employees being hired at such a fast rate in tail end of February to March. That is going to translate to higher, more deliveries, but still won't really affect this upcoming earnings. It'll be for Q2. Yeah, I know. A lot of people can't really, I guess, realize that, yeah, Russia has caused a lot. Even looking right here, oil at 102, that is very, very costly. And even, I haven't really seen any news recently about it, but they were even talking about how there's, obviously, famine is set to actually come in. It's like, Jesus, this is 2022, guys. Like, why are we talking about famine right now? Like, that makes no sense. Like, I think that goes to show too much dependency on Russia. And to be fully fair, I know some minor facts, but the real reasons why Russia wanted to invade, I'm not really sure about that. Yeah, I guess I never really researched that component. But still, actually, you know what? I might buy a little bit of Lucid while I'm on the little bit. It's cheap right now. Or maybe I'll buy options. Okay, bought another five puts, or sold, I should say. Sold 5 puts, $18 strike price. So, 48-cent premium. And so hypothetically, if it gets exercised, my average will be around $17.50, which is exactly my happy point. So, win-win for everyone, in my opinion, at least. Yeah, Sam, that's hard. And I think that's why, yeah, it's hard. Yeah, Fatty, smart thinking. 1750 is exactly where it's at. On Lucid, Rob, no, I haven't. No, just yeah, it's not bad. I'm happy with it. Oh, actually, it looks like it was filled at 49 cents. So, pretty happy about that. Yeah, no. That's why usually I like it. Selling puts, and I guess on a side note, selling puts is a very good way to make money because I only do selling puts on companies I like, and I would not be objected to actually own. Because worst case scenario, Lucid stock goes up. I get the premium. So I get around $300-400. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, happy, whatever it is, a paycheck, a meal, or whatever it is. So on the contrary, though, let's say Lucid continues to go down. Instead of having to worry about the price so much, like I said, I bought $18 strike prices for next Friday. So if it goes below $18, then I get exercise. So I get to buy them at $18, 500 shares. So I'm more than happy about that. And also, going back to it, I paid, or they paid me 49 cents of a premium. So as far as on a cost basis, $17.51 would be my average. So again, win-win. I'm happy with it. I have some expiring today that's going to be exercised at $19.50. But again, with my average, it'll be pretty much purchased exactly where we are at right now. So I like doing options. It's a good way to make money. That's my own 2 cents again. Exactly, Loyal Dutch. Like, you could just think about 2020, even in 2024 to 2026, the huge amount of growth that's going to be coming for Lucid. Like, come on. Like, when can anyone ever question, like, any of that? Like, these are going to be, like, screaming buying opportunities. I find it hilarious that people are actually out there saying that Lucid is going to file bankruptcy, or even it's going to go down to 10. Like, there's no way, even on a fundamental basis, that there's no way that we'll go down there. Yeah, you know what, Marbat, even 1800 at 24.50, that's a pretty solid price. And I know at that stage it was very pivotal. Like, it was going both ways. We were stuck between that 200-day moving average and our, I believe it was the S, or the pivot point on the Fibonacci. So we were battling. Like, we could have easily transitioned higher just with the right catalyst at the time, but unfortunately we trended down a little bit more. Smart thinking, _SPY 17.50. Yeah, whether you do options or even if you just put limit orders and stick to your guns about that, yes, that's the good way to do it. Personally, Rob, I think 17.50. That will come as a result, most likely, of their earnings, which is coming on May the 5th. So I can't see us getting below that because, especially based on everything they've said, they're going to be ramping up production. So things are going to be getting better. They've hired a hell of a lot of employees and as far as the research, and especially in previous me working in HR and stuff, employees don't really become effective or beneficial for around about 2 to 3 months, give or take, after their hiring date. Obviously, it takes time for hiring and training and then kind of working in the routine. So all the employees that they hired at the tail end of February, early March, is going to finally becoming beneficial probably around this time period. So we're going to start seeing a ramp up in production. Unfortunately, like I said, this won't really necessarily benefit for the Q1 earnings, but still, it's going to affect and benefit us in the future, which I think most of you, at least in the chat, have the right mentality. You just have to think long term, and this is going to be a very good stock. So Sam, how much does a cat cost? What's the ratio of cat to dollar? Yeah, if Lucid ever goes down to 10. See, that's the funny thing as well. So you can also, on the contrary, do option, like calls as well. Here, I will... Okay, so these are just my options I did today. So Sundial, BABA, and Lucid. So I just bought that Lucid, so sold 5 puts. But I'm just going to pop over, again, just breaking it down for you, just so you guys can get a good projection. So for instance, even if you wanted to sell puts just for additional revenue, The latest expiry is January 19th, 2024, which actually I realized you probably can't see. There we go. So the very last expiry right here, just scrolling down, hypothetically, even like if you were the most risk adverse individual out there, I'm just going to move that over, most risk adverse individual out there, then even looking right here at $3 strike price, you will get them exercised. So even if you want almost a pure guaranteed stock, like something that will expire worthless, you can easily sell $3 puts for Lucid by 2024, and you will get roughly about $24 per option. Very, very, very easy money. Hands down, that's the most risk adverse thing that anyone can ever do. And even worst case scenario, by 2024, if it does drop below $3, then you get exercised. So you either get to buy stock Lucid at $3, or you get the $24 per option. So this is why I always say go back to options. Options are the way it is at. I highly recommend doing that. But still, it goes back to these prices are fairly good. I know, Marbat. I think a lot of people are going to be very hesitant. A lot of bears are going to come out about earnings. Especially considering at least the positive thing about Lucid is, and it starting out, is I think that most likely people aren't going to pay so much important attention to their revenue earnings per share as much as they are going to in later life, in the future. So I think at least those will be excusable if they are a little bit lower. So people are just hands down going to be paying attention to their future guidance. So their future guidance is going to be very big. Hopefully they'll, like I said, talk on and say that supply chain issues are kind of alleviated and things are set to move forward. And hopefully they bring up good delivery numbers and they don't cut anything future. And hopefully they just talk, like either they take a little bit of pre-workout or they either just a little bit more excited. I think that's one thing that they lacked. I don't know. Just my 2 cents, and I think, I don't know. Yeah, that's again just my 2 cents. Hopefully this one will be a little bit better. Oh, finally saw. Oh, let's see. Oh, cat. Sam, that's not bad actually. $100 per cat ratio. That's not bad. Yeah, I would sell my cats. I'd go steal some cats actually. I think there's a couple that always roam around here. So $100, that's not too bad. That's a pretty good return. I know. Hopefully we can just sit in Marbat's bunker until post earnings, and then we can all make some money. But yeah, let's see, just going to give a quick update on shorts, because shorts have been adding more and more. Yeah, when I started the stream, it was at 0.35, so it looks like they are taking advantage of all this. And I'm just going to take all this BS out just so you can kind of just easily see. So this hands down is short interest. It has gone up significantly, like big time. And conveniently around this time, this is exactly when Jim Cramer started to talk. He started to say that we are a bubble. So I don't know. Everything is connected. Just you give and put out a little bit of fear in the market, and people will take that and run with it. And unfortunately, I think that's exactly what the case with Lucid is. But for those that have cash, that is a great buying opportunity because you can get this so cheap, like crazy cheap. So $18.84 or $18.94 right now. So that's insane. So, and like I've always said, block volume, always pay attention to that. So 655,000 shares being purchased. Even the number of trades today is relatively low on a lot of different fronts. So it's interesting. So make sure you guys are smashing the thumbs up and subscribing. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a Lucid live stream as well. So probably going to set that for about half an hour before, give you some good projections and stuff. That's not bad, Marbat. Cat is priceless. Well, in general, I personally have always, like, my whole portfolio about growth stocks is about 5%, or about 6-7% of that. Lucid, of that 7%, is around 50% of that. So it's a pretty good chunk of that. So I think with the 500 that's getting exercised, I'm going to be at 4,800, around that. So average will be low 21s, maybe it might be 20, high 20s. Yeah. Unless PIF did add, just answering, it was, I believe, 15, I believe. No, that was Pipe. Pipe investors got in at 15. PIF was given a extremely crazy deal. I think it was like 10, I'd like to say. I'm not really sure. The 13F information doesn't really portray that correctly. So I can just show you that quickly right now as well. Okay, so this is Fintel. The latest round of 13Fs still is not necessarily the best. So institution closed out. Keep in mind, a lot of these are small fish for the most part. Closed out fully, closed out some. One added, but only 544. One added 100. And typically whenever you see institutions that have these minimal, this is where it usually flies underneath the radar, because I don't think a lot of institutions like to publicly show that they're shorting a stock, because especially we all see what happened to Citadel with AMC. So a lot of these institutions on their 13Fs, it shows the net, either your long and short position. So Bogart, for instance, has 100 shares that is currently long, but again, they could be shorting at the same time. It doesn't really show the net amount or the breakdown of it. So not too much activity, to be honest. Lindbrook added 25,000 shares, but still, I don't think all the big players are at the tail end of April and early May. So PIF is going to be set for 3 months from then, so it's going to be on, I believe, May the 13th. Same as Vanguard. And then there is where is it? BlackRock as well. That's going to be on the 9th, I believe. They've already disclosed their position and they added 12%, which was positive. Goldman Sachs as well will be right after that. So a lot of big names. I always see this as a good catalyst, but I think you need a nice bullish market for these to actually take effect. If we're in a bearish market and it's continuing to go down, people take very little notice of all this, unless it's PIF. If PIF actually adds, that is going to be groundbreaking. But as you can see, it shows PIF at 23.25 as far as an average, so I think that's incorrect. And yeah, I agree with you, Marbat. Jim Cramer is not ideal. But I think he's one of those individuals that you can't ignore, though. You have to still follow him to some degree, because he had, even though I don't subscribe or like Meet Kevin, he still has a lot of big influence in a lot of individuals. Like, he has a huge following. So I think typically, regardless of if his information is wrong, people still pay attention to it. So I think that's it's one of those double-edged swords. It's wrong information, but people take that as anything. Yeah, PIF is making a ton of money on oil right now. Actually, I think though OPEC did say that I think OPEC was doing something though. They weren't necessarily taking advantage of these prices. They were going to let it the market calculate itself, I believe. But yeah, fun Friday. 18. Yeah, I can't see us getting below the 1750 range though. We just need to deal something with the volume. The volume, people just need to get more hyped up for these kind of like hot stocks. Okay, so let's take a look at what Lucid is showing us on 𝗪𝗓𝗡𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 as well. This website's very slow. Yeah, that's why I like to look at multiple different things. It shows, kind of give you a projection. So, oddly enough, looking at this, it does show that the discussion volume is relatively high today. So people are clearly talking about it quite a lot, and most of them are in a positive sentiment. So again, I'm just going to pop over to Interactive Brokers just to show you this as well, because I like using theirs for a sentiment. This is the 1 month overall sentiment for Lucid. So largely negative. It goes through its cycles, even looking more so on the 6 month. It just, like I said, goes through cycles, and hopefully we don't enter into this kind of time period that we had extended downtrends. Let's see. Like Hertz kind of situation? Yeah, definitely would be. The only problem is that Lucid doesn't have the type of vehicle that would accommodate that. Because no real big company would ever buy like $170,000 vehicles for rent or something. So I don't see that getting to that. But obviously, keeping in mind, I think it's 2025-ish. That's when we should have that lower quality vehicle or lower price point vehicle. That case would be definitely very, very beneficial. Hey, D Young, thanks for coming out. Yeah, Sam, unfortunately, it's sad to say, but it does look like shorts, hands down, have been dictating, not necessarily the shorts, but even, like I said, Jim Cramer just adding fear. A lot of these fear things out there. And on occasion, I haven't really looked at this too much, but the fear and greed index. So we're at 43 right now. So there's a good amount of fear out in the market. By no means where we are representing. So it's interesting to kind of see what was happening in February. There we were almost at extreme fear. So it's interesting to see that we're at 43. But yeah, unfortunately, I think you just have to weather the storm. We're a very interesting time right now. And so I'm just going to give another options update. So right now, still relatively no effectiveness. So $1.63 million with 4 big orders today, 0% positive. Yesterday, only 16% positive, and overall, all last week, 42%. So clearly not a lot of people are thinking too positively of Lucid. Still no real big open interest as well around here. And I guess no matter what, I'm happy with my option that I bought. $18 strike price. Yeah, it is what it is. I'd be happy buying Lucid at $17.50. There's a lot of good things. I do Dwight because it's one of those things. It's like what's that phrase? Have your enemy or know your enemy or be friends with your enemy or something like that. Like you always have to know what everyone is saying, and especially the big influential people. If he's saying to we're going to have a recession, blah blah blah, like you have to kind of see what their motives are and make your own decision, right? Well, I don't, yeah, because I think the next CPI data coming out is going to be, when is that? I think it's end of March, I believe, end of May. I don't know, John. That's a tough one. I would like to say yes, but hopefully the Feds during the upcoming meeting on the 4th will give a lot more guidance, because after the 16th meeting, it calmed the market significantly. Like, a lot of the investors felt a little bit more sense of ease that they knew exactly their plan. They said that they're going to obviously monitor inflation, that they tentatively were assuming that they're going to raise rates on each 6 of the following meetings. So it's interesting. Rob, unfortunately, I do technical analysis on some major indexes, but they're all showing. The funny thing is, like, a lot of people think that Lucid and other growth stocks have gone down significantly. They think that's what the market is. The market in general hasn't actually gone down too much. Market's gone down maybe 10%. So it's by no means all just Lucid. So overall, the technicals on the indexes show a lot of fear and downside coming, but it's usually not a good representation to compare indexes to like growth stocks. Yeah, that's it, Rob. That's right. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. That's exactly what I was trying to think of. Yeah, I think Jim Cramer's that. You just have to watch what he's saying, not listen to him like per se, or like do what he's saying, but realize that he's clearly has motives. And it'd be interesting to see what his holdings or what his friends' holdings were in either Lucid, whether they were puts, especially considering, like I said, when he said that, he pretty much kicked off the fear for Lucid exactly at that moment. Which, again, was right here. So he kicked it all off. Yeah, it's sad to say, but again, it's for the long-term investors that are getting in now. They're happy, right? Exactly, John. Once the Feds rate and they raise their rates to their necessary amount, because if they raise it the 50 points, should be at least keep them satisfied for the next one. So my projections, at least where I see that going, if they give the 50-point increase for May the 4th for that earnings, then most likely, at least in my head, what I'd like to say is that they will monitor inflation to determine the credibility of them raising additional rates in the future. So, meaning likely the next 2, they might not do any rates increase. They'll just keep the status. Because so it'd be an interesting thing to watch for, to say the least. Yeah, John, I'm really interested about the interest, like inflation as well. I would have assumed it's gone down, but yeah. Yeah, Dwight. Yeah, no, I think honestly, if we do get some good transparency from the Feds, we can easily move up. Because even looking on a lot of the technicals, we are very much oversold. Like almost like everything. It's crazy. Very, very cheap. And actually, maybe I'll go on my other account right now and buy some. I think, where do I have it? Yeah, it's crazy to see all these stocks so cheap. Like, they have so much upside. It's interesting to me, seeing how people react to everything that's going on. That is true, John. I don't know, De Young. That would be interesting. I know he definitely helped pump up. The only thing is, I think a lot of people really like Trump for what he did, but at the end of the day, he did use a lot of monetary policy to benefit him to. It's like if you're going to the gym, for instance. Someone's using steroids, and you look at them like, oh, wow, they're jacked up. Okay, well, in reality, they're using a lot of steroids to bump it up. That's what Trump did in a lot of cases. A lot of people still praise a lot of things that he did, but he used a lot of monetary policy, purposely kept inflation, like interest rates, like low, to benefit a lot of growth stocks and the market. So it's kind of hit and miss. Like, I don't know, it's hard to say. Like, he probably would have extended, or I don't know. He did do a lot of good, but at the same time, it's not really natural. But still. Fatima, no real news, just went over as far as earnings, which is projected, or which is on May the 5th. Ultimately, people are just going to be paying attention to delivery numbers and reservation numbers, but more specifically, it's all going to be about delivery numbers and their future guidance. So revenue, earnings per share won't necessarily be as important this round versus probably even in Q2 and going forward. But still, because there's most likely going to be a lot of kind of fees and expenses that they occurred during Q1. Obviously, hiring a lot of people, that takes a lot of resources. So I think it's going to be very interesting. Not necessarily going to be the most optimistic. I personally think that we're going to be around 450. Still, by no means where we should be. And I always bring this up because I'm not really a fan of this. On April the 10th, which again is outside that Q1 window. Just picked this up yesterday, lucky number 500. So the 500, did I say 500? 500th Dream Edition was delivered on April 10th. So they're definitely showing that they are not to where we want them to be as well. Yeah, no, I agree with Bank of America. Money is definitely getting out, and you can tell that almost any stock, even the major indexes overall on a macro level, all at like everything is just lower volume, which shows, yeah, people are getting out. So I don't know if you want to take that as a positive thing, negative thing. A lot of people seem to be kind of mixed on that, but I personally feel, at least when you take the inflow of capital on any stock, it just raises the likelihood of manipulation. And I think that's exactly what's happening with Lucid, because I even have short interest up and it's 21%. That is like mind-boggling, if you ask me. Like 21% short interest, like what the hell is going on with that? Like that makes no sense if you ask me. But especially considering what Lucid actually offers, like people are overdoing that. Oh, interesting. 8 point. Yeah, Bitcoin is that's getting there cheap too, but I think the same thing. A lot of similarities between growth stocks and cryptocurrency. They're both very speculative and both require a lot of capital to get in for it to go up. So I think likelihood will be similar kind of fashion for Bitcoin and Lucid, possibly at least. Oh, so Bears Workshop 4 Dream Editions on Monday. Oh, that's... Yeah, that's not... Yeah, see, that's not good news, even still. Yeah. So, okay, so if there's still Dream Editions, then yeah, probably leaning more towards the 200 to 400. So we all know that there was physical Grand Tourings delivered, but yeah, it's an interesting market out there. Yeah, happy trading. Yeah, Alibaba, hands down, that's a solid one. I've been doing a lot of options on that. Because that is like below its, was it 2014 IPO? That's insane. There's so many deals out there. Again, just looking at, you have to look at balance sheets to see the sustainable ones, what can actually survive in higher interest rates. And Rob, I do YouTube just for fun. It's more of a side, because I don't even really count like anything that this generates from YouTube. It just goes into like a travel thing. Like we don't really, I just do this for fun. I think what led me to do YouTube is, even before that, I did about 4 hours of research every night to better my own investing and to find those like kind of gold mines and things like that. And I always gave advice to a lot of individuals, and people typically like that. So I figured I might as well do a YouTube. And so that's how I got on, Rob. Outside of this, I do bankruptcy. So I usually, I'm one of those that investigates, and so at least that helps me look through balance sheets and to see possibly if someone is lying or misrepresenting a certain aspect. Kind of. Rob, a little bit. Funny thing is, I know a lot of people, even today, like I got some guy who's very, very depressed. I guess he bought in a lot of ARK big time and was like, oh man, how's your thing doing? I'm like, to be honest, like it's not too bad. Like I've been very, very smart. When I see a cycle about to change, I do average down, and I do it in a very big way that like for instance, Lucid, my average is I think it's like high 20s now, or low 21s. So I know I'm down, but I'm not. It's not too bad at the end of the day. Like I know long term, like this is good, and like I said, my growth is only accounts for about 6%, give or take, of my overall portfolio, and the rest of it is up. So I'm happy with it. This is just more for Disney and things like that. No, I can't see Alibaba getting delisted, personally. Yeah, there's a lot of good buying opportunities, Alibaba being one of them. I think in general, the Chinese stocks had that underlying fear before all of this kind of started, that made it at a substantial discount, even before any of that. So, and again, Rob, just going back to, I guess since I have this up, even like views in general. So I think someone already mentioned saying that Bank of America, like capital is not getting in. Even more so from, which I already know, like they are correct, but even more so from a creator standpoint, making YouTube videos. Like, I think this is why you've seen a lot of YouTubers get out. Like, I do this for fun because I don't really care, and I'm fairly young for what I have in life, and I don't really have that many people my age where I live that is kind of like that I can talk to about stocks. So this is like just fun to chat with people, hopefully better investing and everything like that. But this is why a lot of people got out of YouTube. I'm sure you may have noticed is views have gone down significantly. So for someone who is dependent on YouTube income, completely difficult for them. So this is why you probably, I'm sure a lot of, even myself, I don't really look at a lot of other YouTubers, but even I've noticed everyone's views across the board have gone down. Yeah, Dwight. Neo is, wow, that was like insane. Here, let's take a peek at what Neo's at right now. Yeah, I was watching during the last downtrend. I had bought some Neo at 15. Like I was like, or 15.40, I think it was. Like holy, I was so happy. But it sucks. I only bought, I think, was it 150 shares, 200? Like not much at all. I was kicking myself, but still, yeah, Neo is a solid company. I think EVs in general, like you find ones, I think generally as well. I'll just show you this. I personally, the way I invest is you need to pick most likely as well the top 5 companies of a sector. And of that, then you can kind of phase out ones that you don't like. But top 5, like you won't go wrong with any of these. Yeah, hands down. So like Neo, Lucid, Tesla, Rivian I'm not really a fan of per se, but still, if that floats your boat, then so be it. But still, I think there's a lot of positive things to kind of doing that criteria. No, Rob. To be honest, I've actually never ever shorted a stock. Ever. In my whole investing time, I've never shorted a stock. Like on companies that I like to own that are going down, I usually either sell calls, sell covered calls, buy calls, or I sell puts. Because again, I can do what buy it that way. But I've never actually shorted a company, to be honest. I think the whole mentality of unlimited losses has always deep down scared me. And I don't know. I think that's too much gambling. I'd rather just choose my long position after my due diligence, commit to that, and that's it. I'm not really much of a, I don't think, shorting. Very well said, John. Yep. Lucid has the tech, people will come. That's usually... But in the chat here, what do you guys do? Have you guys shorted? Do you guys short? Like even, that's the thing though, even on like, because obviously I look at Lucid on a daily basis, do a lot of videos on them, even live streams, like I'm sure you guys could tell around this range that I was saying you have to start doing long-term mentality and stuff like that, because there was a lot of signals at that stage, especially I'm a very big fan of technicals. There's a lot of bear signals. So you can, for someone that does a lot of good technical analysis, you could have projected easily that we were going to continue to go down. Similar to right now. The technicals aren't necessarily the best, and most likely will continue down up until around this $17 point. But like I said, with psychology, it kicks in. People will realize that and buy ahead of the game, and usually it'll probably amp up to around the 17.50. But yeah, I've never been one to short. Oh, Mr. 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗡𝗖𝗧, that is a very dangerous thing, buying with margin. I think, like I said at the beginning of the stream, people need to make their own mistakes. People, I feel like, need to lose money, and I think my understanding when I learned was I got margin called on, I don't even remember what, it was pointless, I think. But yeah, I think that's an eye-opening thing. Disney stock in general, I think Disney is a good thing long run. But yeah, Mr. 𝗖𝗢𝗡𝗡𝗖𝗧, I'd always watch out. Yeah, no, right now I don't think I'm in any margin. But I do the same thing. In some cases, when I have small positions, if I just want to take advantage of a quick deal, more so on an intraday movement, then I just quickly go in with like 10,000 shares or whatever it is, just do my flip and then get out. Yeah, Nasser, though. I think Disney will be a lot better in the summer. There's going to be a lot of good deals. And hopefully we'll exit this bear market by then, and we'll start to transition higher. Whether it be because of this meeting, this Fed meeting, and or possibly the next. But it looks like there's tons of blood in the street. People don't want to buy anything. Oil is taking a trip right now as well. Yeah, it's interesting out there. And yeah, people just woke up negative today, even like on the just sentiment. That's on a daily stance. So the green was from yesterday. Just people woke up. And I think people yesterday were very shocked. Yesterday they realized that like, oh wow, like Lucid's actually like getting cheap. Like maybe I'll buy. And then people woke up. It's like, oh, that wasn't a nightmare. This crap is still lingering around. And I'll give some final quick updates. So as far as short interest, and this hands down, you guys, during this 1.5 hour live stream, got to experience a little bit of flipping and manipulation in some format. So shorts, when we started, it was at 0.35. It did hit a peak of 1%, and clearly since then they closed out some positions. So clearly they took their money, they ran, and conveniently, if I go back to the chart, more so on probably the 1 day stance, you'll probably see a nice little them closing out some of the position here. But that's how, if they want to make money, and that's exactly goes back to the point, if there's lower volume, this happens more and more. Yep, it is, Jose. Rob, I did do a couple futures, but you need a lot of capital, and I found that the returns that you get based on doing futures is very small. Not worth it, in my opinion. But the physical, I guess that's the physical if you're talking about that. Oil, though, oil companies, yeah, I have some. There's a lot, actually. I actually have quite a few different accounts, but if you guys take a look, here's one, and I will show you. So again, going back to Interactive Brokers, they have a fairly good thing. So for instance, at like Lucid, on the chart, oh, actually it's right here. Short stock availability. So you can always click this, and it shows you how much shares is physically available to short, what rates they're charging. So there's about quite a lot. Shows number of lenders as well that's offering it. Kind of see some charts, see historic rates that they charge and allow you to charge, because keep in mind, if you have physical shares, you can loan them to brokers for a fee, where in exchange they can short it, or they can give it to blah blah blah, whoever they want. But so click on the link, has a lot of good information. I highly suggest. I've been starting to move a lot of my stuff to Interactive Brokers because I really like a lot of their actual news. They get a lot more different places, sources from it, and their info as well. But there's a lot of different things. I like TD as well for their platform. That's why I have probably about 4 or 5 different accounts, different places. But you can definitely, Interactive Brokers is one of those that you can actually short, and they allow you to lend it to them. But like I said, I've never really shorted anything. So like I said, make sure you guys smashing the thumbs up, subscribing. I'm going to be doing a Lucid live stream as well, which obviously up until May the 5th, I'm going to be doing probably a hell of a lot more Lucid videos, as I'm sure you guys are used to. If you also do have any requests for any videos, make sure you guys put them in the comments. I always kind of take a look at those. And if there's more of a common one, I definitely do that. I'm open to doing any and all videos for any stock. I just like to help, like I said, make people as much money as possible, and sometimes if it's a negative thing, I will completely outright tell it to you. Like I've always said, good, bad, and the ugly. And sometimes the ugly sucks. Nobody wants to hear the ugly. But similar to what 𝗖𝗎𝗓 just said, patience is key. And Lucid in particular, long run, like you're going to make a lot of money. No, not like 𝗖𝗓𝗓, not necessarily. I don't think you need volume. It helps 1,000,000% to get a lot more capital in whatever stock you're looking at, but do you need it? No. I think you need the sentiment up, which usually everything's connected, right? You need a good catalyst, which will increase sentiment, and then usually that matches whenever you have a high sentiment that brings buyers in. So yes, in one way or another, you need volume, but you just need a good belief in the underlying stock. And right now, it's been kind of hit and miss, like I said, but I think when we get to around a lot of these pivotal points, like I said, around 17-ish, possibly low 18s, you're going to get a new rush of value investors that are getting in because of Lucid being below its intrinsic value. So I think that will hopefully bring in more blood. Again, that's my own 2 cents. But like I said, make sure you guys smashing the thumbs up. Yeah, that is it for me today. I know today isn't the best day, but like you guys all seem to be under the impression, this is why I love the Lucid community. It's very good. It's everyone knows their stuff. I like it, and usually people have some outbursts and some days because it sucks to be down. I know that, but long term, guys, long term, that's where the money's at. So with all that, you guys have a good weekend. Stay tuned for more Lucid videos, and with that, let's all have a drink, and yeah. Very well said, 𝗖𝗎𝗓. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming out, John, Dwight, Jose, 𝗖𝗓𝗓, Rob, Fatty, 𝗖𝗎𝗓, like I said, Rob, everyone, Nesser, Mr. Yega. Thanks all for coming out. I appreciate that.